Hey everyone, Ben Yunson here. Today we're going to continue our discussion of triads by talking about triad pairs and hexatonic scales. So what exactly is a triad pair? How can we define it? Well, it turns out to be one of the more self-explanatory concepts that you're going to come across. It's literally a pair of triads. Where it gets really interesting is how we actually utilize these triads over harmony. That is to say, how we utilize them when soloing over chords. To give you a more precise definition of what a triad pair is, it's two triads with no overlapping notes. That is, no common tones. For example, if we take an F major triad and a G major triad, we can observe that there are no common tones between either of these triads. F, A, C, G, B, and D. No common tones. And you're certainly not limited to just using major triads. In fact, all of our examples today are going to utilize various combinations of major, minor, and augmented triads. Check out the full version of today's lesson at bensguitarclub.com, where you can pick up how to play triad pairs and hexatonic scales, a contemporary approach to triad pairs and hexatonics on guitar. You'll get notated examples of everything I'm playing today, instructional videos, and of course extended explanations. Perhaps most commonly, you'll hear triad pairs occurring, for example, a whole step apart from each other, like F and G. Sometimes you'll hear them occurring a half step apart from each other, like G flat and G. But really, there's no specific rule about the type of intervallic relationship that has to occur between the two triads. It's really just any two triads, as long as there are no common tones. A single triad contains 3 notes. When you pair two triads together, you get a total of 6 notes. Now from these 6 notes, we can form a 6-note scale, referred to as a hexatonic scale. Hexatonic, of course, being derived from the Greek hexa, meaning 6. As a side note, you could also theoretically do the reverse. If you already happen to know a 6-note scale, you could break it down into 2 triads and see what you come up with. If we took our 2 major triads that we looked at a moment ago, F and G, and played them over a G bass note, we could create a hexatonic scale from these 2 triads that sounds a bit like this. Before we jump any further into this, I should mention that all of the hexatonic scale examples that I'm going to play for you today will be played as 3 notes per string on the guitar neck. I feel that it's the most organized way to lay out a hexatonic scale on the guitar neck, because you can play 3 notes on one string, and 3 notes on the next string, and with that alone you've covered a full 1-octave range of that hexatonic scale. For all of our examples today, we're going to be utilizing chords 2, 5, and 1 in the key of C major. And we're going to be exploring some of the triad pairs and corresponding hexatonic scales that can be used over each one of these chords. We'll work backwards, starting with our 1 chord, C major 7, continuing with our 5 chord, G7, and finishing with our 2 chord, D minor 7. Let's begin by playing over the chord C major 7 with 2 triads that occur diatonically within the C major scale, a G major triad and an A minor triad. As with all our examples today, I'll begin by playing an arpeggiated chordal example of the 2 triads, followed by a single note triad pair example. Let's hear how it sounds. By combining the notes from these 2 triads, G major and A minor, we end up with a hexatonic scale that sounds pretty similar to a regular C major scale. The big difference is that it maybe ends up sounding even a little smoother because it doesn't contain an F natural, the fourth degree of the C major scale. Let's hear how these two triads sound played as a hexatonic scale. We'll be starting from A and playing it over 3 octaves. Now let's get into some dominant sounds. Let's begin to employ a little more dissonance this time by utilizing 2 triads that occur a tritone apart from each other, G major and D flat major, both occurring over G7. With the D flat major triad occurring over G7, we'll be making great use of the A flat, which is the flat 9 over G7, as well as the D flat, which is the flat 5 over G7. When we combine these 2 triads to form a hexatonic scale, we get a sound that is angular and a scale that is completely symmetrical. Let's hear it over G7. Check out the full version of today's lesson at bensguitarclub.com, where you can pick up how to play triad pairs and hexatonic scales, a contemporary approach to triad pairs and hexatonics on guitar. You'll get notated examples of everything I'm playing today, instructional videos, and of course extended explanations. As always, don't be afraid to be creative with these materials. Experiment with them, and most importantly, try to make them your own. I'll see you next time.